Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God,
Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen.
Good morning, my brothers.
Good morning.
Good morning, Father.
So, last week we talked about the three terms. We talked about rite, tradition, church sui juris. Now, then we also, after that, we talked about how is one ascribed in a church sui juris. I'm going to ask you a question now. What are the legal consequences? Why is it significant or important to determine where a person is ascribed? Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, Adonis.
Okay, yes, I'll take it. I'll take a stab at it. Okay, yeah, the whole idea is to find out, just what will the
Did you all freeze or just, I think you might have frozen. Adonis, is everybody else frozen? And anybody else, raise your hand if you can still hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. Adonis, can you hear us now? We lost him. Okay. Anybody else want to try? Dennis.
I think you can keep the members in the church for one thing, because you lose your members in the identity. I think it's important. Otherwise, everybody just kind of blends in, and you lose your members of your church. One thing I know, my wife, we listened to that your last teaching on the rights in the church and everything else, and she works with marriages and all, like with annulments and things like that in the Latin church. But she was able to really pick up on what you were saying very quickly. And she said it was good for her to think, because when she checks the records now, to ask them where they were baptized, or if they know where they're baptized, who their parents were, and things like that, because it makes a difference with the legal aspect of it.
Good. That's good you brought up legal. Ascription determines what body of law you are obliged to follow, and who your bishop and your pastor is, which is important. What body of law and who your pastor is. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time in review, but I'd like to review it for just a moment. And I'll review it by asking questions. If you have two parents, they are both members of the Armenian Catholic Church, what are their options with regard to baptism and ascription of that baby?
Armenian Catholic.
Sorry, I was kicked out.
Any other one? Father Robert.
Sorry, I was kicked out. I just came back.
Thank you. Welcome. Ahlan. What are their options?
Go again, Father, Monsignor.
Okay, let's do it again. Two Armenian Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 23 Eastern Catholic churches. Two Armenian Catholics have a baby. What are their options with regard to ascribing that baby?
Well, he's ascribed according to the Father, and in the Armenian Church.
Armenian Catholic Church.
Armenian Catholic Church.
Armenian Catholic Church. So the child, they have no options.
Right.
What happens if the father is Armenian and the mother is Melkite? What are their options?
Ascribe under the Armenian Catholic Church, according to the Father.
That's their only option.
unless they agree, the couple agree to be ascribed under the Melkite.
In the Melkite. So remember that. Not agree. They have to agree and request.
Okay.
Okay. So when you do this, remember, give all the people all the options. Now, what if the father is Armenian Apostolic and the mother is Ukrainian? What are their options? Father Ronald.
Armenian Apostolic Orthodox.
Yes, yes.
It follows the father religion.
Nope.
No?
Remember, that's Orthodox. We can't baptize for the Orthodox Church.
But the
But then
other
you
one
said
is not Catholic.
you said Ukrainian. You mean Ukrainian Catholic or Ukrainian
Yes,
Orthodox?
Ukrainian Catholic.
Oh, it's gonna be ascribed with the Ukrainian Catholic.
Right. There are no options there. There are no options there. They have to be baptized in the Ukrainian Catholic Church because the father is not a Catholic. We don't care when I say not Catholic, it doesn't matter if he's Orthodox, Protestant, or non-baptized. If he's not Catholic, the child is baptized and ascribed in the church of the mother. Okay? So far, so good. Okay, now, what happens if a Ukrainian Orthodox wants to convert to Catholicism? What church is he ascribed in? Father Peter? Can't hear. I can't hear you. Something's wrong with your sound. Come out and come back in. Can't hear you. Okay. Deacon Jim, if a Ukrainian Orthodox wants to become a Catholic, where is he ascribed? What are his options?
I get the Ukraine Catholic Church.
Right. Right. Can he be ascribed to the Maronite Catholic Church?
If he's not Catholic now, yeah, he could be.
No. Wherever he was baptized, he must follow that rite once he's Catholic. So, if he's Ukrainian Orthodox, he must be baptized and ascribed to the Ukrainian Catholic Church.
Okay.
Russian Catholic, Russian Orthodox, Russian Catholic. Greek Orthodox, Greek Catholic. So far down the line. So far, so good? If they're not baptized, what happens if a person's 18 and never been baptized? His parents are both Melkites. What are his options? I use his because it's just easier to use one pronoun. But what are his options? Deacon Mikhail.
In this case, I think will be baptized with the church. He's Orthodox. His father is Melkite.
He's nothing. He's not baptized.
And his father is Melkite.
His father's Melkite.
Okay, so in this case, I think will be baptized if we need to be baptized in the church Melkite, because his father. No.
No. He can be baptized anywhere he wants.
Oh, okay, because he is 18.
14.
Over 14 and never been baptized. At the age of 14, he's emancipated from his parents.
Okay.
Okay? Now, don't be discouraged about this. Don't let this make you afraid, because This is new to you, and canon lawyers have the same degree of accuracy when they're studying canon law. And then, of course, I make fun of them because they should know better. Deacon Peter can tell you some of the things I've said to them. Can we hear you
Can you
now?
hear me now?
Good, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
By the way, about the last case,
Mhm.
if he needs to be baptized, even though he has all the option, but in regard to Catholic Church, supposed to go through the RCIA program, right?
yes. Well, that's for Latin.
Okay.
That's for Latin. If he wants to be received into the Melkite Catholic Church, they don't technically have an RCIA.
Okay.
He has to be prepared, but RCIA is a Latin program. Okay?
Okay.
Questions? Okay. Now, if you Canon 31, and I'll read it again. I don't think I did it last time. Says, no one is to presume to induce in any way the Christian faithful to transfer to another church sui juris. This is kind of taking off of what Dennis was talking about, that you are not supposed to, we want to keep the membership. The church wants to keep membership stable. So you're not supposed to induce anyone to transfer. Now, I know of a seminarian, okay, who was Eastern Catholic. Okay, let's say he's Melkite, that he's Melkite Catholic. I'm not going to say the name of the seminary because that would be inappropriate. But if I were to say it, it's St. Mary's in Emmitsburg. So the professor there, this young man found out that he was Armenian, or Melkite rather, and he was studying for Latin diocese. Then all of a sudden, he found out he's Melkite, and he really wants to explore that. So he talked with his faculty advisor, who told him, no, you don't want to go with those people, and tried to discourage him. But at the end, the seminarian said, I'd really like to explore this possibility. And the professor said, okay, learn how to make falafel and go with them. Okay, that is inducement. That is inducement. Canon 1465, how many of you have a code? Any of you have a code?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
1465. Father Ronald, do you want to read it? Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. A person who ascribed to any church sui juris, including the Latin Church, and exercising an office, ministry, or another function in the church, has presumed to induce any member of the Christian faithful whatsoever to transfer to another church sui juris, contrary to Canon 31, is to be punished with appropriate penalty.
Okay. Now, this priest that I was talking about really is subject to a penalty because he holds an office of teacher. He's inducing the seminarian to transfer from the Melkite Church to the Latin Church. He is subject to a penalty. I don't think that Canon 1465 has ever been the source of anybody being punished. Now, we often accuse the Latins of trying to steal from us. We have to be also very careful in that we don't try to encourage people to leave the Latin Church to come to an Eastern church. Okay, now, Canon 32. Who else has a code? Father Robert? Father Robert? Do you have a code?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Canon 32, would you please read it? Just paragraph 1.
No one can validly transfer to another church sui juris without the consent of the Apostolic See.
Okay. This means that the Apostolic See, Rome, has to consent for anyone to transfer from one church sui juris to another. Rome is the arbiter. Okay? The consent is required. Okay? Now, the next paragraph of that canon talks about when this consent can be presumed. Father Armando, do you have a code? And could you read paragraph 2 of Canon 32?
In the case of Christian faithful of an eparchy of a certain church sui juris, who petition to transfer to another church sui juris, which has its own eparchy in the same territory, this consent of the Apostolic See is presumed, provided that the eparchial bishops of both eparchies consent to the transfer in writing.
Okay, I'll put it in English. The consent of the Apostolic See, as required in paragraph 1, can be presumed if there are two bishops, the bishop from which and the bishop to which, of the church to which the person is transferring, and they both agree to it. Okay? If a person wants to transfer from the Latin church to the Ruthenian church, both bishops, the Ruthenian bishop and the Latin bishop, have to agree to it. Okay, now this means that the person would approach the Ruthenian bishop and say, I want to be a Ruthenian Catholic. He would write a letter. He would give the bishop a recent copy of the baptismal certificate. Then the bishop would contact the Latin bishop, the respective Latin bishop, and ask if he has any opinions about this. Then the Latin bishop would say yes or no. Now, if the bishop says yes, then the person has the permission to transfer. He's not transferred yet, but he has a permission to transfer. If the bishop says no, the case has to go to Rome. So far, so good. If they both say yes, you'll have some problems. For example, let's say a Coptic person wants to transfer to the Maronite church. So, Father Ronald, what would you do?
The Coptic has to send letter to the bishop, Maronite bishop, to be accepted first.
Right.
Yeah, showing his intention to become Coptic, to
Right.
become Maronite.
Yes.
And the bishop will respond. Yeah.
No, the bishop. What does he have to do?
To send to the Coptic bishop.
Right. Here's the problem. You're correct. You're absolutely correct, Father Abona. But here's the problem. There is no Coptic bishop. There is no Coptic bishop in this country. There's no Coptic bishop outside of Egypt, which means then that the case must go to Rome. Okay? The case must go to Rome. Now, I'll just keep it as simple as that. Yes, Father Robert.
Well, I met a Coptic bishop in Raleigh.
Orthodox, I'm sure.
Yeah, Orthodox.
Yeah, only Catholic. Remember, that's what we have to keep in mind too. Catholic. There are many Orthodox bishops. There are many Orthodox bishops in this country. They have, I think, 2 dioceses. They have a different system. They have general bishops who are really not assigned anywhere. Okay, Father Stephen, you have a question? Subdeacon Stephen. Subdeacon Stephen has a question, I see.
Yep, I just had to unmute. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, we have a lot of Latins attending the Maronite Church, and some of them have expressed interest in joining, and the local bishop has sort of said, Father, James was stealing people, it's sort of humorously, but technically they have to actually apply and go through the process to join, but they can still attend to participate in the sacraments without any problem. I just wanted to make that clear.
That's clear, and they're free to drop the envelope in any basket they want.
Right, that's what I thought. Now,
Okay.
what constitutes convincing, or when does Father get in trouble for suggesting that because he teaches in his sermons, he's, of course, fervently, he's a convert himself from another rite, a few years ago, and people just love him and love the Maronite Church. He's not purposely trying to get people to change, but people are inspired by him. So that doesn't follow any or cross any lines, does it?
Well, it depends. Here's what I would say. If you're saying there's several ways of inducing. If you told people, if the Latin priest tells your people that your children can't come to this school unless you join the Latin Church, that's inducement.
Okay, gotcha.
If the Maronite priest is saying you should really become Maronite because the Latins are very cold, they're very big, they don't care about the people. Okay, here's what I say, and I'm glad you said this, Stephen. There are very few times when the a transfer is necessary. Marriage sometimes, priesthood orders, sometimes religious life. Other than that, the person is free to come to your church. There is no, we don't take a member, we don't ask for driver's license when people come to Thanksgiving dinner. Okay?
Yep.
And tell the bishop, with all due respect, for every one we have stolen, check for the 100 they have.
Well, it wasn't even blatant. It was just, we heard through the grapevine that the Latin bishop was complaining, but we don't know that. And, it's just, and I didn't realize there was even a canon law about it. I wasn't even thinking about it. So this is very interesting. Okay.
Okay, let's go to canon 33. And let's see. Who would like to read it? Raise your hand. Not everybody. Father Robert, 33. But we need you to, okay.
A wife is free to transfer to the church of the husband in the celebration of or during the marriage. When the marriage has ended, she can freely return to the original church sui juris.
God bless you, Father Ronald. That's beautiful and useful. Okay, now, what is this saying? In the Latin code, it doesn't start out with a wife. It starts out with a spouse, which refers to both the husband and the wife. So a Latin husband, write it this way, Latin husband and Latin wife can transfer to the church sui juris of their spouses. An Eastern Catholic wife can transfer to the church of her spouse, but the husband cannot transfer, simply transfer. They're talking about here, you don't have to contact the bishops. If you have a Latin woman and a Maronite man, she can indicate she's Maronite, you write it down, it's done. But the Maronite man can't transfer to the church of the Latin wife on his own. He has to go through the process of Canon 32, paragraph 2. contacting the bishops. Okay, now, Deacon Peter is a very clever man, and when he's a priest, he's going to tell one couple, okay, it's a Latin girl and a Maronite boy, and they're doing marriage prep, and Deacon Peter says, well, why don't we just do that transfer now? Okay? Let's get it all out of the way before the wedding. Comments?
Isn't that considered inducement?
Well, doesn't the canon say a wife can change?
But
During
during
the
marriage,
wedding.
After the wedding. After the wedding. She has to be a wife. Now, also the last thing I want to point out is, once she has changed, there's no going back unless the marriage ends. She doesn't have the permission. If she transferred the Maronite, but she doesn't like it, doesn't like the priest, whatever. She lives in Glen Allen. She doesn't like the pastor. And she wants to go back. She can't, only if the marriage ends. Okay? Questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
You said a Latin girl and a Maronite guy, boy, getting married. Okay. Now, the canon 33 that you read, is it from the Eastern canon or the Latin or the?
This applies also to Easterners. This applies to Easterners also.
I understand, but she's Latin though. She's not.
She also applies to Latins. Yes, this applies to Latins.
Okay. Oh, it does. Okay.
It was a big. That's Adonis. This is very, very good, but there was a lot of discussion about this, and in 2011, the Holy See sent out an interpretation that when the church, when it uses the term sui juris, it can apply to both in the Eastern Code. Okay? Yeah, that's a very good, that's precise, good.
Monsignor.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Monsignor, when it said the marriage is ended, we mean by death or divorce, right?
Death or annulment.
Okay.
That's my mother told, God rest his soul, but my mother told my father at one time, she's a Catholic, so she doesn't believe in divorce, but she can go to confession for murder. Okay, moving on. Those of you who are married, don't share this with your wives, okay? Let's talk about session 3, and we're going to talk about what is a patriarch, what is a major archbishop. Quite often we belong to churches and we really don't know how they are governed. Okay, I'm going to read to you Orientalium Ecclesiarum, number 7, A and B. It's in your notes. It's in the outline. Okay? Now, let's see. I don't have all the, oh, here they are. Now, the Patriarchate as an institution has existed from the earliest times and was recognized by the first ecumenical councils. The first ecumenical council was in Nicaea in the year 325. The first ecumenical council. Remember, Christianity had only been legalized 12 years earlier by Constantine in the year 313. So 325, this is when the church is just still organizing itself, creating institutions. Before that, it was illegal. That, you know, I explain it this way, you know, if you were you were part of the mafia, well, you couldn't build a building that say this is the mafia's central office here on this address. No, you're illegal. You can't do anything. The mafia can't own anything. The church was illegal. Now, in 325, the Council of Nicaea, in Canon 6, spoke of the bishops of Alexandria, Antioch, and Rome. Okay, Alexandria, Antioch, and Rome. All had jurisdiction over the bishops in their region. So what they said was, they didn't say, okay, we're going to give these bishops jurisdiction. What they said was, they recognized what was already existent. So for bishops to have jurisdiction over other bishops from 325, this was recognized, and they were saying it was old then. So the situation, see, why this is significant is this. Bishops govern their diocese or their eparchy in virtue of divine law. God has given them this role. So, for one bishop to have power over another bishop in any matter, we have to justify where it comes from. Who said that they could do that? Well, the supreme authority of the church, an ecumenical council, said they could do that. So far, so good? Okay. Now, the next paragraph of that same canon. By Eastern Patriarch is meant a bishop to whom belongs jurisdiction over all bishops, not excepting, that means including metropolitans, clergy, and people of his own territory or right, in accordance with canon law and without prejudice to the primacy of the Roman pontiff. Okay. Usually we describe patriarchal power as the power of a patriarch over a bishop, right? That's how we think of it. We think of it because our churches are so small that we don't have metropolitans. We don't have provinces. Some of the major archiepiscopal churches, we'll get into those in a few minutes. Some of the other Eastern Catholic churches have provinces in their homelands and outside. For example, the Ukrainian Catholics, there's the province in Canada, and there's a province in the United States, in Philadelphia. So far, so good? Okay. Now, so patriarchal power is the power over metropolitans and bishops, and naturally all the faithful and clergy in that territory, in that given church. That's what a patriarch is. Now, any question about that? Now, before I get into the election of a patriarch, before I get into the election of a patriarch, I'd like to talk about, let's skip over that and go into patriarchs and their synods. One time, the Melkite patriarch, Gregory, the third Laham, he was before this one, Joseph. And he was in Damascus, and I believe that the Pope was Pope John Paul II. And during that papal visit to Syria, the Pope and the Syriac bishop, the Rum, the Orthodox bishop, and the Melkite, Syriac patriarch, the Orthodox patriarch, the Byzantine Orthodox patriarch, and the Greek Catholic patriarch, Melkite, all went with the Pope to everyone's cathedral. A beautiful ecumenical gesture. A beautiful ecumenical gesture. All three went to all the churches together. In Syria and in the Middle East, ecumenism is a lot easier than it is here because they are a minority, they have to stick together. At the end of it, the Melkite Patriarch was a rather impulsive man. And he said at the end of the meeting, they were at a lunch or dinner or something, he said, from now on, I'm going to say that the Melkite Church will celebrate Easter with the Orthodox. And the Orthodox were quite happy. Even the Pope was praising the Melkite Patriarch for his gesture. There's one problem with that. It's illegal. The Patriarch can't pass laws on his own. He is not a little Pope. Okay, now let me explain to you in canon law what that means. I'll first refer to the council. And I'm going to again read from the decree Orientalium Ecclesiarum, which is the decree on Eastern Catholic churches. It was promulgated, issued by the Pope and the Ecumenical Council on November 21st, 1965, along with the dogmatic constitution of the church, Lumen Gentium. Then we have Orientalium Ecclesiarum. Then we have Unitatis Redintegratio, which is the document on ecumenism. So it's talking about the entire Church of Christ in these three documents, all promulgated on the same day. Now, this passage I'm going to read is very important. It says, the Patriarch with their synods, the Patriarch with their synods are the highest authority for all business of the Patriarchate. The Patriarch with their synods. What it's saying here is we have two poles of authority. We have the Patriarch and the Synod. Now, the text doesn't say who's superior. It doesn't say that the Synod, under the guidance of the Patriarch, or that the Synod assists the Patriarch. No, you have two equal bodies of authority, the Patriarch and the Synod. Again, if you go into an Eastern way, the one and the many. Now, we talk now, you're going to hear it everywhere, about synodal governance, as if it's something new to the Catholic Church. It's not new to the Catholic Church. It's, in fact, synods have been in use in all the Eastern Catholic churches forever. Why is synodal governance as a Catholic institution useful? If you give, okay, you're all smart people. If you're head of a group and somebody proposes something that you really want to die, what do? You want this proposal to die, but you can't say no. You give it to a committee. You give it to a committee. So if you have this large group of bishops, they can't move because there's no focus and no person directing it. Okay, on the other side, if you have one person making all the decisions, they might be very good decisions. It might be a benevolent dictatorship, but it's still a dictatorship. And there's the possibility that arbitrary decisions could be made. So we have a beautiful combination of the one and the many. which goes to show you right off the bat, the patriarch is not a little pope. He doesn't have all the power to govern in his church. He shares it with the bishop. Right now, Bishop Elias and Bishop Gregory are in Lebanon. Right now, the synod is working with the patriarch in governing the Maronite church. It's not assisting the patriarch to do it, they are governing with the patriarch. Now, again, we always have to understand too, like I said before, it said that without prejudice to the primacy of the Roman pontiff. And again, the Roman pontiff has the power to intervene. Now, we Easterners are quite often critical of Rome. They're always interfering. But I know of situations, I'm very familiar with situations, when a synod becomes dysfunctional. When a synod becomes dysfunctional and they want the patriarch to resign. They can't make him resign. So they have to go to Rome to ask the Pope to intervene. We consider the papacy quite often, we Catholics, I'm in every Orthodox dialogue you can throw a stick at. My problem with them is that Catholics sit there and apologize for the papacy. My opinion is that the papacy is a gift. It's a gift that really brings finality to an issue. At some point, somebody's going to say yes or no. In the Orthodox Church, things just go on forever. Okay, so I'm going to move from the papacy and go to the power of the patriarch and the synod. The synod has legislative power. What's legislative power? Anybody want to? Adonis.
I guess to draft laws and
they make the laws.
They make the laws.
They don't simply draft them, they pass them. They have to vote on them, and a simple majority will allow a law to pass. But then the patriarch has to promulgate the law. Okay, could somebody go to Canon 112, paragraph 1? 112, paragraph 1. Who has it ready to read it? Father Armando. Oh, Father Robert, you have it. Okay. 112, paragraph 1.
The promulgation of laws and the publication of decisions of the Synod of Bishops of the Patriarchal Church is the competence of the Patriarch.
Is the competence of the Patriarch. Could somebody go to Canon 1488? Father Armando?
Almost there. 1488.
88.
Laws are established by promulgation.
A law becomes a law by promulgation. So you see how things are going here. We have the synod passes the law, the patriarch promulgates it. The synod can pass any laws they want. If the patriarch doesn't promulgate it, it's not law. Okay. So, the synod can pass a law, but the patriarch needs to promulgate it. The patriarch, on the other hand, can't make a law unless the synod makes it. So that's why the Melkite patriarch could not simply say, this is going to be our new law. He has no right to do that. Questions? Yes.
We are talking here about particular law, yeah, not universal.
Yes, not universal law. They can enact laws only for their church. Universal law is what you're talking about. Perhaps you're talking about for all the Maronite church spread throughout the world.
No, for the whole church.
No, they can't. They make it only for their respective church. Okay, which this pattern of making laws, the Latin church doesn't have it. The Latin church doesn't have it. They have a synod in Rome. It's not a synod. The conferences don't have the power. So they're talking about synodality, but they're far from it. Okay, now, so there are three powers in any governance structures. What are they? Anybody want to know what they are? The three branches of the US government.
Executive, legislative, and judicial.
Perfect. Legislative is the Congress, and in the church, it's the synod. Judicial, we have the Supreme Court and the judicial system. In the church, it is the synod again. It is the synod again. And you can find this in paragraph 2 of Canon 110. Canon 110, paragraph 2. Now, you probably want to say, okay, the synod exercises judicial authority. Can they punish the patriarch? Can they punish the patriarch? Can somebody go to Canon 1060, paragraph 1? Father Armando, I'd like you to read it.
Which canon again, please? 60.
Canon 1060.
1060 and 60. And 60. Which point? Number 1?
Number 1. All 4 where they have the dot. Yeah.
Okay.
The Roman
the Roman pontiff alone has the right to judge. Patriarchs, bishops in penal cases, heads of states, other cases that has called to himself for judgment.
Okay.
That he has called for himself for judgment. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Which means that the patriarch, the synod, cannot punish the patriarch. The synod cannot punish bishops. It can't judge bishops. Those cases have to go to Rome. Let's say in the Maronite Church, let's say there's a bishop in Lebanon who's never there. He's always somewhere else. He's in Europe, everywhere. And he's sometimes 6 months at a time. Or that the bishop or the patriarch has discovered he's stealing money. The synod cannot punish him. The synod has to the patriarch has to send the matter to Rome for adjudication. So they can judge marriage cases all up to 3 levels. At the same level of the rota, they can judge. They can act as a tribunal. Usually what they do is they form a, okay. The synod is to elect 2 bishops. And along with a general moderator, 3 of those bishops, they are the Supreme Court of any church. Now, if some matter is so bad that you decide how to do things, you could let's say they're fighting over property, and the 3 bishops, the people don't like the decision. They can appeal it to the entire synod of bishops. Any bishop involved in that case must excuse himself. So You see right off the bat, the patriarch doesn't have judicial power. The patriarch doesn't have legislative power. The patriarch does have executive power. He can make appointments. He can execute the laws passed by the synod. Okay? Now, I'm going to bring up one other point, and then I'll ask you to give some questions. What about us in the United States? If the synod passes a law that is liturgical, it has the force of law everywhere in the world. If the synod passes a law that is disciplinary, it has the force of law only in that territory. Okay? Have I managed to lose you entirely? So, to recap, let me, okay. We'll talk about the election of the patriarch and bishops next time. So we're not going to talk about that. But we have about 6 minutes. So do you have any questions? Anything at all that you'll lead me into some very interesting things by your questions, I'm sure. Or don't even know what to ask.
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Going back a little bit, we have a number of priests in the Latin diocese here that are, I think, are Maronite, but they're in the Latin church. So, I mean, how frequent is that? Have they gone through, do you think? I don't know if they have or not.
Yes.
Gone
Yes.
through the,
yes.
to get ordained, yeah.
Yes. They have had, yeah, that would not be something that you could just put aside, set aside.
Each bishop in the seminary, when they ordained them, they'd have to get the approval, make all that, right? Yes. Okay.
More questions? Yes, Father Ronald.
Why the synod of the bishops, the Maronite synod, when they wanna elect a new bishop, they send first the name to Rome, so they cannot do it without consulting Rome?
Okay, we can get into this briefly, and I'll get into it in a more fulsome manner after this. Whenever any candidate for the episcopate has to receive what is called the assent of Rome, any candidate. What they usually do is they'll send a list of maybe 10 that are possible candidates to be a bishop, and Rome will then conduct an investigation. Okay, which means that, for example, if it's an American candidate, Rome, through the nuncio, will ask people on the qualities of this person, if they're prepared for the episcopate. Then, once the assent is given, it's given. And it always stands unless Rome specifically removes it. Then, when the synod elects somebody, if it's for the territory, he's elected. If it's for outside the territory, they have to send 3 candidates in order of priority, in order of preference. And then Rome will make the appointment. Now, Rome doesn't have to even select from those 3. Okay? But usually it's the first person on the list, unless there's a problem that they don't want to talk about. Do you understand the distinction? Father Ronald, did I answer your question or no?
Yes. Yeah. Just the assent of Rome, not
not the appointment. Assent. An assent is kind of what we would say in English, he's been vetted. There's nothing to prevent it. They're not saying he should be a bishop. They're just saying there's nothing that says he shouldn't be. Father Robert, and then Deacon Stephen.
No, my question is related to a different topic. I'll do it at the end of the session.
We're at the end.
Oh, well, just really non-related at all.
Not a problem.
I'm just reading that Pope Francis calls for civil union laws for same-sex couples. Have you heard about that?
I just saw the same headline, but what I would like to see is Pope Francis always says, whenever he begins a meeting, he said there are going to be two meetings, one on what we say and do here and what the press says we say and do. So I'm going to check on the Vatican website to see what he said. What he said. Okay, so let's not jump to it, but let's see what he says first. Because first of all, for me, that's, for civil unions, I have nothing to say about that. I'm not interested. In fact, I was in a conversation yesterday. I think that the church should stop having any civil effects to marriage. We do a sacrament. Whatever the civil government does, that's their business.
My question is, if that is true,
let me find out about it before, Robert, before I make a judgment on it.
No, I'm talking about power of authority. If that is, let's suppose that he's what
he has no authority.
So does he have the authority to do it, or it has to go through the different way of enacting that? Does he have to do it from the chair, or does he? How does that become?
He has no authority whatsoever. In any case, he can be on a throne and talking away, but he's talking about what civil church should do with that. You know what he might have been. He might be saying exactly what I'm saying. We're never going to marry two people of the same sex because marriage is a sacrament, and we're going to marry only a man and a woman. Whatever the state does is their business. Make sense? Yes, Sabdik. Any other questions, Robert? Stephen.
Yeah, I was just going to raise that issue that you were just talking about. My master's degree is in public administration. I've been involved in civil law and planning, and I think we as ordained ministers and people need to just keep in context the law that we're under. Certainly the canon law judges and helps us make decisions about what we do in church, and civil law is about, but the reality is we live in both worlds. And so the question always comes up, are you Catholic then American, or are you American and then Catholic? So which law sort of takes precedent if they're in conflict? And I think and this is, I'm not an official, but I think what Francis is doing, Pope Francis is trying to do, is to have us be tolerant of people who differ, but not change our fundamental beliefs as a church. So just because we disagree with secular law doesn't mean we should go out and confront them and get angry with them and have fights with them. We simply say our belief is such. We don't think that is a correct belief in terms of our law, but democracy is subject to all the people, not just the Maronite Catholics. So my point is, and my question for you, Chorbishop, is give us some parameters for how to navigate those two worlds as ordained ministers, priests. I mean, I'm a subdeacon. I've been one for 10 years, but
Mabruk, yes.
It seems like we need a little guidance there. At least I sometimes do.
I always say we have to judge things and positions and not people. Okay. In the politics of today, everybody's wanting to say, this one is not a Catholic. So we'll start reducing everybody. Okay. We'll start judging everybody in public. In public. I was interesting because when Vice President Pence was in a debate with, is it Tim Kaine last year or the last election? Well, Pence sounded more Catholic than Kaine with pro-life issues and all those things in marriage. Well, Kaine is Catholic and Pence is a former Catholic. Pence is a former Catholic. So we have all these situations. What I think we have to do is, we would say with the same-sex marriage, we do not regard that as a sacrament of marriage. In our eyes, it's not a marriage. Just as if a man and a woman, two Catholics, go to City Hall and get married. What's our opinion of that? Not a marriage. It's a civil union. It has no effect in our church. We feel that they're not living any more ethically than if they weren't married at all. I think we always have to talk about, and not be used by any political group. We have to be the people, right after this is all done, I think the church is going to have to be the group of people, the ministers of our church, to pick up the pieces. If we're going to have any solidity in our society. Any more questions? I'm not evading issues. I really am not evading issues. This is where, whatever the civil society does, whatever the state of Louisiana wants to do with regard to civil marriage, that's up to the Supreme Court and state of Louisiana. I have nothing to do with it. If they want to come to the church to be married, let's talk. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, we'll finish up this topic. I don't think we have too much, just a little bit, and we'll just continue next week, okay? Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your attention. Yes, anything else, Deacon? Okay, have a great day. God bless.